can begin now. I want to welcome everybody to our O2 session here about the art of asking and about learning more about financial aid, records and registration, the Student Service Center, which is where I work and where a lot of the student leaders also who are on this chat also work as well. So we're really excited for you to be in this session with us, and we're going to go over some of the information, basic information about financial aid that you may have questions on, and again, go a little bit more into what to do with that information, especially when it comes to asking questions as we move forward. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to share my screen with you. We have a presentation. And we're just going to go right back up to the top. We're going to start the presentation here just in a moment, once I get it up and going. Sorry, actually this might be the wrong one. I apologize. Is it this one? Yes. So my apologies for that. I had the wrong presentation up, but we're going to go ahead and move forward. Again, this is the session part 2 for at 3 p.m. And we want to at first acknowledge, you may have already heard this, but Wayne State University rests on ancestral and contemporary homeland of the Three Fires Confederacy. These are Native American sovereign lands that were granted to us in 1807 through the Treaty of Detroit. We want to affirm the indigenous sovereignty and honors all the tribes with connection to Detroit. With our native neighbors, WSU can advance educational equity and promote a better future for the earth and all people. And hopefully you know a little bit more now about the lands that the university is on and Detroit in general. But we wanted to take that opportunity now to acknowledge that during this presentation. And you may have already heard that as well in previous sessions. Things to remember, this session is being recorded. It will be available for playback on the O2 website at the end of the week. All microphones are muted, but you're encouraged to ask questions via the chat box. We will try to answer those questions through the presentation, but at the end of the presentation, we'll have about 15-20 minutes where you can ask questions, and I'll read them out loud on the video so that we can kind of go through them together. But if you can ask those questions via the chat box, we do have a student leader and an orientation leader that are in the chat that can also answer those questions while I give my presentation. Closed captioning is available. It's in the options if you look up top or on the bottom, depending on how your screen looks. If you go to more, there is a closed captioning option there. To access the live captioning, please click the button on the bottom of the menu bar. And then lastly, we did have an attendance link that is currently not working properly, but we will be taking attendance through this chat by your signing into the chat. So we will take attendance that way, so your attendance will be accounted for. So this presentation is the art of asking, especially when it comes to all things financial aid, records and registration, enrollment, admissions. Asking questions is going to be very, very important. And so asking those questions, you need to learn what is the art of asking question, what is the meaning of asking questions and where it can lead you to. The person on the left, Latonia Garrett, also does this presentation with me from time to time. She is the director of the Student Service Center. She won't be with us today, but I'm going to give a little bit of insight about her experience. And then my name is Ahmad Awada. I'm the coordinator at the Student Service Center. And we're the front-facing entity of the Welcome Center. So the Student Service Center is essentially the front desk. We're the ones that welcome you as you come in. We also answer a lot of those initial questions. We help guide you to the right departments. And we answer some of the questions that may be a little bit easier, that may not need an expert from financial aid or an enrollment specialist, but we are the ones that help guide you through the process. So we're kind of the front door of Wayne State University, and something that you can remember that the Welcome Center, the SSC are in the same building, the Student Service Center, and we are there to help you and guide you not only at the beginning of the semester or your first experience at Wayne State, but through your whole college career. We're here to help. And to give a little background of our stories, I think it's important that you understand where we come from as staff members to kind of hopefully give you a little bit of insight of how we think and what we know and how we kind of experience maybe some of the same things that you're all going through. So Latonia, again, she's the director of the Student Service Center. She was her family was extremely supportive when she went to college, but she relied mostly on the folks at her college to get her through. There's a lot of terminology and different things that she did not understand. She was the first of her family to go to college, so it was really important for her to reach out to those departments like ours at Wayne State to really figure out how to get through college the best way she could. She was not familiar with handling her own business, meaning that she came from an environment where she didn't really have to take care of herself in a way that she had to do her own bills, her own registration for classes and all that. So that was a new experience where it's great to have independence, but that independence comes with a lot of responsibility. So learning how to be responsible for her own business and herself. She learned to advocate for herself while she was at college, meaning that she had questions. If she needed help, she wasn't afraid to go to different departments or different staff or different students to ask for that help. And we'll explain a little bit why asking for help is brave later on in the presentation. She also worked three part-time jobs to help through college, to pay for college, to get through college. And you'll find that as a common theme for a lot of students who attend Wayne State. A lot of them do work. A lot of them are supporting not only themselves and maybe their college careers, but maybe family and friends that they have back home. And so we understand, myself and Latonia understand that struggle. And you'll see in the presentation, I have some similarities with Latonia's story as well. She tried almost everything at the university that they extended. So she was an RA, she did orientation, she was heavily involved on campus. Through her campus involvement, that's where she fell in love with higher education, and that's why she's in the position she is in today. So there's a lot of opportunity. In my particular experience, I'll explain some of the things I also took advantage of while I attended my institution. And she got better and better out of the classroom. So a lot of people only think about the classroom education, but there's a lot of things that happen outside the classroom that you learn about as well. So not only concentrating and learning, through your schoolwork, but also through, Wayne State is the most diverse public institution in Michigan. Learning from others, learning about their stories, their backgrounds, learning about different foods. I mean, there's so much opportunity at Wayne State to learn outside the classroom that we really want you to take advantage of that. In my story, again, I was a first-year student as well. I was terrified. I'd never been really to a college campus on my own, and so that was really a really terrifying experience. I wasn't really technically sound. I also didn't understand that like the CC aspect, carbon copying somebody on an email. I didn't know how to copy people on email. I didn't know how to do a presentation. I kind of had to learn all that for the first time. Again, this is before smartphones and tablets were more readily available for everybody, excuse me, that were involved, like it is today. So that was a big learning curve, not knowing how to use that technology. I also work full-time to support my family. So I helped support my family through a family business. I was working full-time, 40 to 60 hours a week, as long as going to a full-time schedule. You can imagine it was very difficult. But even through that, I was actually able to get involved on campus. I worked with a program that allowed me to work with children of U.S. military students or U.S. military soldiers abroad. So during my undergrad, I was able to travel to 14 different countries through this program over the summer and work with, again, children as a camp counselor on U.S. military bases in Europe as well as in the United States. And then I have a question, what do I do with this check? Something that's ironic is I work for this office that deals with these checks, but I got a grant check. I was on a scholarship with most things were paid for, but I had a couple bills here and there. But I got this huge check that was a grant that I did not know. And basically when I went in from there, I did not know whether I should cash it or not, if it was sent to me by mistake. And so I ended up going to my scholarship office to explain that I got this money that was sent to me by mistake. And they said, no, that's your money. You can cash it. And I said, well, I don't want to pay it back. They're like, you don't need to pay it back. I said, well, it's a loan. I don't want to deal with this. And they had to kind of go back and forth with me because I was so confused about what to do with this grant money. So I understood that at the end that the grant money was there for me because of my financial situation. And then I could use it to help support and pay some of those other bills that wasn't covered by my scholarship. And like Latonia, I relied heavily on my campus support. Without the campus support and the offices on my institution, I would not have graduated. And I really want you all to understand the only reason that I'm in my job is because that you attend the school. We want to help you. That's our job, is to help you. And furthermore, we wouldn't have gone to higher education if we did not enjoy working with students. So we really want you to understand that we are here to help you. And that is why we work at Wayne State. And so when you're coming to us, you're not bothering us, you're not inconveniencing us. We are literally here to help you and guide you through your Wayne State journey. We want you all to remember that we don't expect you to know how to do college. And I say those in air quotes because, again, that's not an expectation we have. We are here to help you get to graduation. So there's a lot of terminology, a lot of lingo, a lot of culture, maybe at the institution that we don't expect you to know. In some sense, some of the information is impossible for you to know until you actually get to Wayne State and start to kind of get yourself incorporated. So just kind of keep that in mind. We do not expect you to know everything. And in fact, there's a lot of times the things that sometimes we may take for granted is an information that you desperately need to know. So we want to give you a base. I want to give you a base before I get into the bulk of the main presentation. So we have scholarship, loans, grants. Oh my, obviously it's a kind of a joke that we have, but scholarships is something that a lot of you are going to come across that a lot of you have questions about. And I want to give you an idea of what these scholarships mean. So Wayne State has scholarships that are offered through merit, and then also have scholarships that are offered through different colleges within the institution under the university umbrella that you can get based on a combination of financial aid or financial need, scholastic achievement, or leadership qualities. So scholarships, there are a few different ones that you can get, but there's scholarships that are offered under the Wayne State University umbrella. And so that's something that you want to keep in mind. There's a lot of scholarships that we as an institution offer to our students. There's also opportunities for each student to get merit awards from external organizations, and we encourage you to explore all those opportunities. I myself was part of a fraternity that I was able to get a scholarship to my fraternity, and they were able to give me that check that I could then apply to my student bills, student tuition, and things of that nature. So there are other opportunities outside. So the biggest thing when it comes to scholarship, there's two different types. There's those under the Wayne State University umbrella, and those from external organizations, whether it be a fraternity, whether it be an organization, maybe a business. It could be a plethora of different opportunities. A lot of it is just that you have to apply. So the mistake that a lot of students make is that they may think that they're not qualified, but you just don't know until you actually apply for a scholarship. So if there's one thing you can take from this particular slide is that apply. Apply for scholarships as often as much as you can. It's very important that you do that so that you can get the most assistance for your college experience as possible. Scholarships that are provided to students are applied to your account. And again, this is not something that you need to pay back. So grants and scholarships, and we'll talk about grants later, but scholarships and grants are not something that you need to pay back. Loans, on the other hand, are different, but scholarships in particular are those that are awarded to you and apply to your accounts and your tuition and your bills, but those are something that you do not need to pay back for. And again, to reiterate, apply for scholarships early and often. The earlier the better. You know, once you get through the first few weeks of school, you want to check in on scholarships even that early. It's not even too early. You want to make sure that even sometime in September or maybe even October latest, you start looking at these scholarships, whether for next semester or potentially for the next fall. So look at those scholarships. You can look at, you can find some more scholarships information at wayne.edu/scholarships. So definitely want you to check that website out. There's a lot of information there, but scholarships are something that you really want to consider as you move forward in your Wayne State career. And not all scholarships are financially, sometimes people think scholarships are only geared to financial need. There's a lot of scholarships out there that are based off other criteria. So I don't want you to be discouraged if you feel like it's only based off financial need. Moving on to loans, this is something where a lot of students are kind of confused about what's the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized loans. So these are loans that you get through federal government. This is called the direct subsidized loans. I will shorten it to subsidized loans. That's how it's usually referred to. So first things first, who can get the direct subsidized loan? They're available to undergraduate students with financial need. So this is based off financial need. Is something that, again, the federal government provides based off of your FAFSA. Again, this is geared towards your financial need. It's something that you want to keep in mind with subsidized loans. How much can you borrow? It all depends on your FAFSA, and it doesn't exceed your financial aid or your financial need. Our office will help with the amount you owe, and so we usually only take out. We only recommend that you take out the enough to cover your basically your Ebill. You can potentially take out more, but that's something that you want to talk to our office about. Again, we want to make sure that have your best interest in mind, because we don't want you to get in more debt than necessary. And that's a conversation, again, you would have with our office. But the thing I want you all to understand when it comes to subsidized or unsubsidized loans, those are not money that the institution has. That money is coming from the federal government. We do not have the ability to change that or create additional funds. Now, it doesn't mean that we won't help you or we can't help you. We will try to exhaust all options when it comes to filing for those funds and those loans. But again, it's something that I really want you to understand is that we don't have control over the financial aid that's awarded to you. We do have control of how we can help you and how we can exhaust all those options. But again, we can't determine that those funds that are available to you. Again, we can change a couple of things here, maybe ask for a different amendment or file different paperwork on your behalf with you. But again, that's not something that we can control. Now, the biggest thing when it comes to any loans is interest. So this is where the biggest difference between subsidized and unsubsidized loans. So subsidized loans, subsidized means that you're getting help essentially. So the U.S. Department of Education pays interest on the direct subsidized loans while you're in school at least half time. So let's say you take a $10,000 loan. The U.S. Department of Education will pay the interest, not the loan, but the interest that occurs on that loan up until the time you graduate, and for the first 6 months after you graduate. So there's a buffer period, or a grace period as they call it. 6 months after you graduate, they will continue to pay those interest rates until you're ready to pay. So again, if you take a $10,000 loan out and you don't make any payments while you're in school, that loan by the time you graduate will remain $10,000 because the U.S. Department of Education is paying that interest. Now, if you decide to postpone your loan payments, what we call deferment, the U.S. government will also pay those interest rates until you're ready. And deferment is usually 5 years or less, depending, like, for example, if you're having a hard time finding a job, you can defer that loan up to 5 years, depending on what you're qualified for. And again, the Department of Education will pay those interests as you move through your college career. And again, if you have a grace period or a postponement of your loan. So again, based off of financial need, and the interest is paid, again, until you graduate by the Department of Education. After you graduate, after you're past that grace period, that loan will start to accumulate interest if you don't, again, if you're making payments. Now, if you pay it off before you graduate, then you basically, if you pay that $10,000 off in the 4 years before you graduate, by the time you graduate, if that's completely paid off, you'll have no additional interest to pay on that loan. So kind of moving into the second type of loan that we kind of discussed here is the unsubsidized loan. And where this is different is that the direct unsubsidized loans are available to pretty much all undergraduate and graduate students. There's no requirement to demonstrate financial need. So that's the biggest difference between, one of the biggest difference between that and subsidized loan. Subsidized loans has a financial need. Unsubsidized loans do not have that financial need. How much you can borrow, again, depends on your financial aid, and it depends on how much, like again, based on how many classes you register for, how much you owe through tuition, and the credits that you applied or that you are enrolled for. So all depends on that. Again, very similar to what you had with subsidized loans. And who will pay the interest? So once you take this unsubsidized loan out, you are responsible for paying the interest, and it starts accruing interest immediately. So throughout your college career and all the way up until the time you pay it off. So if you get a $10,000 loan, and again, you don't make any payments during your college education or college career, by the time you graduate, that subsidized loans will be more than $10,000. Now, the interest rates all depends on what it is year to year. But again, you have to understand that in the first scenario with the subsidized loans, your interest is being paid for you. In an unsubsidized loan, you are paying interest, and it's accumulating interest from the very get-go. Okay? Moving on to your loans that require, but basically moving on to that all loans require repayment. So this is different than scholarship and grants, which we'll talk about. You can get more information at the Federal Student Aid website, which is at Wayne State, or you can go to actually Federal Aid website through .gov. We want you to start making budgets for yourself to keep your debt within a manageable limits. So again, you don't want to take out more money than you can afford. And always plan ahead, making sure that you're looking at these scholarships, making sure that you're looking at these loans and grants all the time, as often as you can, and constantly following up with it. Even when you're in the middle of the semester, you want to start looking at these things. One thing I do want to mention is private loans that you may get from a bank or another organization. Those are completely different. They may require you to start paying those payments monthly, immediately. They may require you to make those payments after you graduate. With subsidized and unsubsidized loans, you don't need to make these payments on the loans until after you graduate. Of course, with unsubsidized loans, you might want to start paying those early. So again, you don't accumulate that interest that you potentially may have. So again, with unsubsidized loans, you're accruing those interests, but you don't have to pay those loans back until you graduate. You don't have to start paying back those loans until you graduate. Whereas with some private, again, I can't speak for each individual bank or organization, you may have to start paying those loans back almost monthly, immediately after you take those loans out. So there are some benefits to unsubsidized and subsidized loans. There's pros and cons to it. Again, they're a little bit different than private. And private loans, again, you're going to have to kind of communicate with whatever entity you got that loan from. So we have, again, grants. This is my particular situation where I didn't know what to do with the grant money that I received. It's based, your awards are based on financial need, and this, again, does not require a payment. So it's like a scholarship. You basically are getting it because of your financial need. You would have to do the free application for federal student aid. FAFSA, most of you are probably familiar with that. That is a requirement for grants. FAFSA is something that you have to do every year. It's usually available on October 1st, so that should give you an idea. that you should start looking and applying for FAFSA as early as October 1st. The earlier you apply, it allows you to take advantage of all the funding available. And then I just put on here, our code is 002329. Again, that's something you can find on our website as well. But again, grants are something that you want to apply for and see if you're qualified for it. Here are some types of grants as well. Again, these are links that you can actually take to our website, but the three most common is federal grants, which is probably the most common of the three. Federal Pell Grant is the one that I received. You also have the Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant, Federal Teach Grant. You also have State Grant, and WSU also has their financial aid grants that they also give to students in need or of additional assistance. So you want to look at these, see if you can apply for it, see if you're qualified for them, and you never know. And from year to year, it may change. Your financial situation may change where you may not qualify this year, but you may qualify in the following year. So it's definitely something that you want to keep in mind as you move through your college career, that these grants are really important. Again, these are some things that you can look up, especially on our websites. You can get more information about them. Ebills is going to be something that you are going to see a lot of, especially at the beginning of the year, potentially at the end of the year as you sign up for classes. This is something you want to check regularly. Again, this is when our institution will communicate with you about fee billing information, potentially electronically signing things through the Ebill, registering students. You can access your Ebill by logging in through Academica. So Academica is something that you want to be really familiar with. That along with your Wayne State email, you want to make sure that you're logging in to Academica and your Wayne State email as often as possible. And again, e-bill statements are prepared on the first business day of each month, and then they're able to be viewed and printed online a day later. So after the first of the month, you should start be able to see those Wayne State emails and notifications come through. Email notifications, there's no sensitive student information that will be on the email notification, but it is something that you want to keep in mind. You definitely can get those notifications come through, not only through Academica, but also through Wayne State email. And lastly, if you want to use the WSU Broadcasting Messaging Service, you can get those Ebill notices via text or cell phone, text message to a cell phone or instant message to a personal computer. So if you are interested in that, again, you can get that through Academica as well under WSU resources. Again, a lot of things you can go through Academica and even put in the search bar, Ebill, and it will actually get you to where you need to go and the links you need to get to. And kind of going on how to view your Ebill, this is something that you can kind of explore yourself, but I want you to know where to go. Again, you're logging into Academica. That could be a.wayne@edu or academica.wayne.edu. You would select the student tab. In the resource section under that tab, you go to student resources, you select financial records, and then you select Ebill statement and payment history and select the all tab, and that's where you will view your most recent information. Again, that's through Academica. You really want to get familiar with both Academica and your Wayne State email. So we're going to go into the bulk of the art of asking. So to be successful, you have to ask questions. Understanding your position as a student, you belong here. You're very important. We don't expect you how to do college. Again, asking those questions are super important. Moving away from the stigma that asking questions is bad. We really want you to understand that asking questions is very, very powerful. And in fact, most successful people are great at asking questions. So a lot of people think about students who are asking questions, or people who ask questions, they feel that they're looked unintelligent or maybe even stupid, when in fact, those who are most successful are constantly asking questions and also asking for help. we also, the more questions I'm sorry, I was making sure we didn't have any questions in the chat. You should not pressure yourself with knowing everything. It's our job to help you. Again, we have a plethora of offices that are here to help you through your journey. The only job you have when it comes to this information is basically asking those questions, showing up, either emailing us, phone calling us, going on a Zoom chat with us, really making sure that you're asking those questions and getting the help that you need. And the more you question, the better answers you get. So understanding that a lot of times people think that they're asking too many questions. In reality, we sometimes as staff think that students are asking too little questions. So we want you to ask as many questions as possible. Questioning makes you open and wiser, and questioning helps promote critical thinking. This is proven with, this is backed by research and data, that when you ask more questions, and it basically helps with your knowledge and learning. Obviously, we're the most diverse school, public school institution in Michigan. And so you're gonna meet a lot of different people from all around the world, from all different walks of life, with all different kinds of knowledge. Asking them questions and learning about them is gonna make you more open-minded and more wise. And so you definitely not only wanna ask questions in the classroom, you wanna ask questions of our office and staff, and you also wanna ask questions with students around you. You wanna get to know them. You wanna gain all that knowledge that you can. And lastly, success is not a journey, but a destination. Success is a journey, not a destination. You got to keep learning and keep growing. So when you think of success, there's no kind of ending point. It's a continually growing, continually evolving. It's something that you continually are working at and moving with, and questions along that way of success, along your path of success, is going to be really critical for you. It's going to be really critical for you to achieve that success. Again, just ask. We want to reiterate this throughout the whole presentation. Your goal should be to be asked questions, especially as a new Wayne State student. And coming into asking, I mentioned this earlier, asking for help is brave. So when you think of the most successful people in our lives, or people that we admire, you have to kind of understand that as you move up that ladder, or you look up to those people you admire, they didn't get there by themselves. They had help along the way. More likely than not, they're currently still having help in their current position. So asking for help and asking those around you questions is gonna get you to be successful. There's nobody in a position of success that has gotten there solely by themselves. There's always someone helping them along the way. Excuse me. And having the question to ask a brave question, or having the courage to ask brave questions. So we talk about asking for help is brave. It's something that, but asking those brave questions is just as important. So again, asking for help reveals strength and not weakness. You have to be brave enough to ask the questions no one else will dare to ask. And often it's the most important and obvious questions that everyone is afraid to ask that ends up leading to the biggest breakthroughs. So for example, you may not realize that asking a question in class, for example, maybe it may seem obvious, it may seem obvious to others, but there may be 10 people in that class that have the same question, but they're afraid to ask. And by you asking that question, not only helps you, but those 10 people around you. So just understand that asking those questions may not only be helping you, but also helping others in the process. And then, this is one of my favorite quotes, is be brave, even if you're not. Pretend to be. No one can tell the difference. Climbing the ladder to success, you belong here. And we really want to reiterate that you belong at Wayne State. You are a warrior. You're part of our family. You're part of our community. You absolutely, 100%, unequivocally belong here. And we are so happy that you're here. So if there are any doubts in your mind, maybe having imposter syndrome that you don't belong here, you absolutely do belong here. And we're so happy that you're coming along this journey with us. Getting more into climbing the ladder, everyone starts at a different point on the ladder, so avoid comparing yourself to others. Your success and growth areas are unique to you. So there's maybe students that have similar situations, but in reality, when it comes to even financial aid, admissions, enrollment, your journey here at Wayne State, it's going to be really unique to you. There's no two stories alike of students who come to Wayne State. There may be similarities, but again, you have to understand every situation, your journey is going to be unique. And it mentioned imposter syndrome. Again, that's real. We all have it at some point. Again, knowing that you belong and deserve to be here is very, very critical and important. Also understanding that failure is just as important as your success. Again, anybody who you see that's in a successful position, a position of influence, have had failures along the way and failed often. You can't let those setbacks, you can't let those setbacks overcome you or basically hold you back. You have to overcome them and kind of move forward when you come across maybe something that didn't work out the way you thought it was going to work out. The Instagram illusion, kind of understanding that not everyone you see on the surface is the reality, kind of separating reality from social media. Excuse me, it's going to be really important. And not everyone shares their shortcomings. So a lot of times people keep that personal. So you really want to kind of keep that in mind as you move forward. Climbing the ladder takes time. Even when you must take a step down the ladder, know that the valley that you're on the ladder and you belong there. And sometimes our offices and our staff will help push you up that ladder and help guide you up that ladder. But understanding that merely being on that ladder to success is so important and crucial. And you may move up and down that ladder through your 4 years here at the institution. So getting into the question of how to ask. So we keep saying the art of asking questions are important, what to do when you're asking questions. This is where we're going to get down to kind of the tricks and techniques when it comes to how to ask. So here's some 10 tips. Plan your questions to kind of know before you go to an office or go to class, maybe plan the questions that you want to ask. Know your purpose. You want to open the conversation. You want to start that initial conversation. You want to be the one that first kind of open that door. Again, remember, no question is stupid. Following general questions with specific ones. So you may have a broad question that you want to kind of break down into more specific ones. Focus your questions so that you ask one thing at a time. So sometimes we'll get students that have 10 questions and they ask all 10 questions at the same time. In reality, it's probably the best for you to ask one question at a time, get the answer for that one question, and then move on to the next one. And this probably is the most important tip for asking good questions is don't be afraid to say, I don't understand. If you don't understand, make sure you ask for more clarification. And I've been in situations where I kind of was giving an answer when I was in college and didn't really understand. I kind of moved on, and then down the road, I'd actually had to be back and asking the same questions because I did not follow up with that same question. And you can even ask, the person you're asking question to explain it in a different way so that you, again, are sure that you understand. And making sure you take notes. Take notes, if you ask those questions, write them down, get those answers so that you remember. You've asked these questions, you ask the question that's really important to you, so you want to make sure that you remember it. Sometimes you'll get an answer verbally, but if you're not taking those notes down, whether writing them down, whether putting it in your phone, whether putting in an Excel sheet, whatever kind of works for you, remembering what those questions were is going to be crucial. And lastly, kind of let that questions be a curriculum. It's a Socrates quote. I think it's really important. Again, it goes along with the saying that your questions are going to be vital to your success here at Wayne State and beyond. Knowledge is having the right answer. Intelligence is asking the right questions. This is the Welcome Center, kind of giving you an idea of this how it looks. And the Welcome Center is on the corner of Warren and Woodward, and is something that we have. This is the physical space that we're at. Of course, we're doing remote work right now, so you can contact us via email, cell phone, any of kind of those calls is something really important. We do Zoom sessions as well. We can do face-to-face, at least over the internet. And so there's a lot of opportunities to get in touch with us, even though we're not physically open. But this is a place you'll get familiar with once we do physically open again. This is a place hopefully you'll visit frequent and often. And so this is something I just want you to be familiar with how the building looks, where it's located at, and hopefully you'll visit us again really often. This is some of our staff. Again, we're super excited. Some of our enrollment specialists, some of our directors. These are some people that you may talk to. These are our first frontline individuals, along with the student leaders who are our work study students. But we're to be the first people that you get in contact with when you come to our office, or if you email or phone call us. So these are the individuals that you will see and can be communicating with. This is what the front desk looks like at the Welcome Center. More likely than not, behind that, that computer is a student leader. They'll be there to assist you and kind of help you work through the process. Our virtual hours are now 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. You see our phone number there, as well as our student service at wayne.edu email. You get in contact with us. Again, we are hoping that even through this session, you all will be reaching out to us to understand, to work early, and as opposed to waiting, again, to the end of the semester to get in touch with us. Kind of based off technology, Google is great. We love Google, but understanding is often best achieved in conversation. And what we mean by that is that a lot of times we want to instantly go to Google and search for questions and get the answers from there. But when it comes to financial aid, admissions, enrollment, registration, records, everybody's story is unique. And so we really want to encourage you to come and visit us, to have those conversations with us, because again, those broad questions sometimes can't be answered. We have to get more specific, and that's why we're here. We want to understand, one, that your experience is unique, your questions are unique, and sometimes your answers will be unique. The answers that we give you will be unique. So don't always default to Google. I'm not saying not to use it, but also understand, in conjunction with using Google, to also visit our office to get those questions answered.